Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning into the North Main Minute. I'm Joshua Doby. We often hear, as folks are coming to us, especially for the first time, or if it's a new relationship, about how challenging it can be to reach out to a financial advisor. I get it. It's one of those more sensitive kinds of subjects. It's not like talking about whether we're going to cut the grass or we're going to paint the house or things like that, even though those are important things. But when it comes to a financial advisor, there is some significant level of vulnerability that comes with that because we're talking about our finances. And that tends to be one of the more challenging kinds of subjects for most folks, and certainly involving a third party in the mix can be a little bit more of a challenging sort of experience. So sometimes folks ask us, well, if we're looking for a financial advisor or if we're considering it, what are the kinds of things that we should keep in mind? Everybody's palate's going to be different, so it's definitely important that you hear from me that everybody's going to make this decision differently. This just happens to be a couple of reflections from me that I think are wise to keep in mind. First thing that you want to do, make sure you understand if they have any credentials. Meaning if there are certain credentials for which you are looking, for example, full disclosure, I'm a certified financial planner or a CFP. And there is a certain amount of education and ongoing continuing education that goes into that kind of credential. There are other credentials out there as well. So important that you understand what they are and what's required for each of those credentials in order to first obtain and then to maintain them as well. So obviously I have a vested interest in saying that you want to look for somebody who has some credentials in terms of what it is that you want, but definitely something at least to consider as you're looking at that kind of thing. Second big thing that you want to keep in mind when it comes to looking for a financial advisor, and again, I'm some biased in this regard, so I want to disclose that as well. Take a look at other folks who have had good experiences. Now, everybody's situation is unique. So it's not true that just because friend A has had a good experience that that's going to be a good one. It's also not true that necessarily because friend B has had a bad experience that that's going to be a bad one for you as well. But definitely referrals are very helpful. So if you have close friends or close confidants or close colleagues that you think are going through similar kinds of spaces as where you are, and you say, hey, are you using a financial advisor? If so, how's your experience been, good, bad, and otherwise? A referral can be very helpful as well because it can be advantageous to you to hear the direct experience of someone who has been in that space or in that kind of relationship for a while. So we encourage that as well if that's an opportunity for you. And the third thing, and this is due just to folks who have been around this business for a long time, so I definitely have my biases here, and maybe it's due to my thinning and graying hair, has to do with the idea of longevity. It's not true that young advisors are bad or wrong. That's not what I'm saying at all. But there is some advantage, in my biased opinion, there is some advantage in working with some folks who have seen different things in the marketplace and who have seen different things with regards to our overall economy over the course of a long period of time. The very least that's true is that experientially, he or she has been able to see the good, the not so good, and a whole bunch of stuff in between. So definitely something to keep in mind. Again, I'm not saying that to young advisors they're wrong or bad, but definitely a factor that you want to keep in mind whenever you're making the kinds of decisions that are necessary to retain a financial advisor. If you'd like to reach out to us for a no obligation kind of chat about, okay, if we would use you and your firm, what does this look like? What's the good? What's the not so good? Because there's always some not so good. I'll just ruin it for you right now. There are always those kinds of things, though, that are important to keep in mind and most helpful to know before you make a decision. We'd love to hear from you. NorthMainFinancial.com.